Gerhard, on behalf of the STS-99 crew, you can get in here too, Gerhard. We'd like to present you with this montage with a flown patch and the German flag. It has a picture of our launch, the landing, the Galapagos Islands, the Himalayas, Hawaii on the SRTM mission, and a picture of the crew.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
It's very nice with the flown patch and the flag.
And as an appreciation and thanks for everything that you did for our reunion.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Gerhard. Welcome STS-99 crew in Europe's largest exhibition, Apollo and Beyond, at the technik-museum Speyer, marking the reunion of the STS-99 crew and the 25th anniversary of the STS-99 SRTM mission. I have a very special connection because of my 55 shuttle missions as a journalist. I was at Kennedy Space Center and Johnson Space Center for your mission, yeah? And some of your astronaut colleagues have been already here, like Scooter, Beamer, and Tom Henriks, Jean-Jacques Favier, and it's a pleasure for me that you are here, yeah, with us. So, is this the first time you have all been together since the mission in 2000, or did you see some of each other in the last 25 years? Anybody?
No, it's the first time I've seen Janet and Dom in almost probably 20 years. I know I see Gerhard every once in a while.
At different events and different conferences or different, you know. Dom and his wife came to our house last year, so yeah, we see each other.
But not as a group like this, because Janice Voss passed away in 2012 and Mamoru is in Japan, yeah. But I think this is for years, I would say that 4 of the crew are together.
Yes.
Okay, great, yeah. So SRTM stands for Shuttle Radar Topography Mission. What was the main task of this mission?
The main task, and it was actually a new thing, was to create a 3-dimensional digital model of the Earth. And the special thing about SRTM was that it was quasi-synoptic, which means we got a picture of as the Earth looked like in an instantaneous moment, if you count 10 days as an instantaneous moment. Today we can do higher resolution, we can do many things better, but it takes a year to compose that. And so that was really the very first time that it was attempted, and we were lucky enough, I think, that we were extremely successful. And Kevin has the numbers, but no one expected that actually to happen.
And question for you, Gerhard. All the other crew members had already been in space, like Kevin was STS-99, his 4th mission, and for Janet and Dom, they flew together on STS-91, and this were their second mission. What was it like for you on your first flight, the launch, working in zero gravity, and the landing?
They gave me a fairly miserable time. Because Kevin instructed them not to share all the experience they made on their first flight with me, so that I do all these dumb mistakes. And but the reason was not to be mean to me, but they could relive the way how you adjust to weightlessness by watching me as the little bit tipsy doll in the shuttle. But no, other than that, it was just great. And I come to the very end. It was 5 months after the mission. I was having a nice glass of wine with Karin, my wife. And I said to her, you know what? I probably should retire as an astronaut. And she said, oh, I like to hear that. And why did you come to this conclusion? And I said, I will never get a mission again with such a scientific, challenging task. There is no way that I will ever be as successful as we had been. And there's absolutely no way that I will ever fly with a crew like this. So I have 3 counts against me. Why should I continue?
3 big reasons.
Yes, 3 big reasons to quit. I didn't. Well, the rest is history. But that tells everything about this crew.
And he's absolutely right. I would have done that after my first mission, but I had to wait till I had the perfect crew.
So it's interesting for me because you 4, you are the flight deck crew during launch, yeah? And the other 2 crew members were on the mid deck. what were your major tasks on the flight deck? Maybe only one or two examples, Kevin?
Well, for me, it was just to run the team and just watch how things go and get things, working together on the same page and just looking for all phenomenal procedures. And then like Dom's primary position was make sure I didn't screw up.
And Janet?
I made sure both of them didn't screw up.
Okay. So a 60-meter long mast was extended during SRTM. How did that work, given that Endeavour's cargo bay was only 18 meters and 30 centimeters long and 4.6 meters wide? What kind of technology was used?
There's an extendable mast, so as the mast came out of that cylinder, it would lock into place a new section, and each section extended that mast, a meter at a time until it went out to the full length. And then the same thing on retraction, it would fold up and twist until it folded back into the canister.
And I think you and Gerhard, you started the procedure that the mast goes out and also came back in?
Well, this just tells you something about the difference in the crew. And Janet and I, as you rightfully said, our task was to extend it. It worked just perfectly. I will not disclose who had to retract it. It was not us. It didn't go in.
Ah, okay.
We had hoped that we would go out and do a spacewalk to bring it in, but some smart people figured out how to close it.
Yeah.
So we did not get to do a spacewalk.
Yeah.
We still have to wait for our first one now.
Yeah, you were supposed to go on a EVA if would something happen with the mast or with anything in the payload bay. Yeah. So for the commander and the pilot, how often did you have Endeavour to repeatedly align for the measuring instruments around the Earth? Yeah.
So we had an operation that we did twice in orbit called zero Doppler steering, and as the trajectory of the orbit became aligned with the Earth's rotation, then there was no error. But as we transited mostly over the equator, and now the rotation of the Earth was not aligned with the trajectory, we had to do a twice in orbit maneuver called zero Doppler steering, and then Kevin and I got to do this flycast maneuver, which was a significant maneuver to raise our orbit up as we were relatively low in the atmosphere.
Yeah. And the atmosphere pulls you in, yeah?
A couple miles a day, we had to get back up to the optimum resolution altitude, and we did this maneuver that endangered the boom. And when you accelerate the space shuttle significantly, the boom is out there swinging with the weight at the end, and there was a series of pulses that we could do with the reaction control jets to minimize that motion, and yet they had to be perfectly timed to counter the normal swinging, and that worked out wonderfully. We tested it on the first, I think, flight day, and it worked like it was supposed to, and I think we were within, we were at 80% of the structural limits of the boom without doing this flycast maneuver, and we sort of nailed it with this. Draper Labs helped us develop this maneuver, and that was probably the most exciting part of the flight. But
as a pilot, for you. Yeah. So the crew was divided into two shifts, the red and the blue team. How was this organized and carried out?
The commander was on the shift, and I, as a pilot, was on a different shift, sort of managing the shuttle systems if something were to need to be looked at. And then the smart people were filled in the rest of the crews.
Janice was the payload commander, so I have her on one and me on the other shift. Also, with our time for landing, everybody wanted to make sure that I was rested for landing. So I got on that shift. And Janet and Gerhard were both our spacewalkers. So we figured if we had to do a spacewalk, we'd want them to be on the same shift so we're not moving. So that's it. It really, when we were doing everything, you want to have one pilot on each shift and the two spacewalkers on the shift, and that's
lots of organization. Yeah?
Yes, and so that's how it worked out.
So SRTM was used to create the first global digital elevation model using antennas. How did this work and what is it useful for?
Well, we used a radar system. In principle, you could do photography, but then there's no way that you can do that within a limited amount of time because you have clouds all the time and at night you can't take pictures. If you illuminate the Earth with a radar beam, just like with a flashlight in regular photography, it's the radiation is reflected back and recorded by two antennas. And essentially we use two antennas because we have two eyes, and that allows our brain to construct a three-dimensional image. And in a very similar way, it works in all kinds of wavelengths. It has nothing to do with visual light or radar light or whatever. When you have two different perspectives, you can construct a three-dimensional picture, and that's essentially how it works. And it is used today for so many things we didn't even think about when we had been discussing it, what it is being used for. And a nice little story about this is Inza, she's a meteorologist, our oldest daughter.
Your daughter.
And she was at that time at NCAR in Boulder in Colorado, National Center of Atmospheric Research. And an invited scientist gave a talk on modeling microclimate in a certain area of the world in Asia. I forgot exactly where it was. And someone asked, but the terrain influences so much how the weather and the climate actually develops. Where do you get the terrain data from? And the answer was, I use SRTM data. And this is just an example that none of us could have thought of, that climatologists would use our data to improve their models. It's just one example. And you ask one of us and you get different answers from each one of you.
I remember we talked to the senator, and he was asking why we need it. And my answer is simple. Have you ever flown on an airplane? Would you like to know what the terrain is on an airplane? Before we flew, there were several places in the world, they didn't know the altitude within a couple of thousand feet. You'd see it on maps. And we had cases where airplanes flew into mountains. Before we flew, there was only 5% of the land that was mapped to our accuracy, which was every soccer field, you'd know the height to 10 to 15 meters. After our flight, 80% of the world was mapped to that accuracy, and that's where 95% of the people live. So that's the one where everybody, well, not everybody, but anybody who's ever flown an airplane, you kind of like to know how high the terrain is. It helps.
The mapping took about 222 hours and covered almost 100% of the planned area between 60 degrees north latitude and 56 degrees south latitude. How much data was generated?
Well, the total amount is 14 terabytes, which was 25 years ago a huge number. And I remember the discussions, how do we store that? And there was a new technology on board, holographic recording of the data. But we decided, not we, but it was decided not to do it because it at that time seemed to be risky. But if I hear 14 terabyte today, I go in a shop and I buy I buy 3 discs and for a little bit of money, but we used huge tapes where we had to
store. And how many?
330.
330 tapes. Yes. Was it the size like a VHS cassette or so?
Well, twice the size of a VHS cassette. Yes, roughly.
What were the biggest challenges and what were the most beautiful or surprising moments for each of you during the mission? Dom?
From my perspective, one of the biggest challenges we talked about was the boom and controlling it during maneuvers. The most beautiful part of it, the flight to me, was how close we were to the Earth relative to space station or Hubble altitudes. And so the beauty of the Earth was seen from a perspective that not many astronauts got to see. So our Earth observations, our photography results were amazing. And we came back with a couple thousand pictures of the Earth from the Caribbean to Mount Everest and everything in between. Just remarkable Earth Ob stuff to share now with people.
Yeah. Janet?
I don't recall anything very difficult or challenging on that mission other than what Dom has already talked about. But I agree, the views of the Earth, I remember one night, our time is very controlled, but one night we decided to stay up for one whole pass of the Earth after we were supposed to be asleep. And so we didn't talk, we just each picked a spot in the window and watched the Earth go by. And I remember one particular pass, I think it was that night, that we flew over the European continent and came over from the north, passing over the British Isles and over Europe, and then down over the Nile River. And it was night, so all the lights defined the continent and the major cities, and it was just the most beautiful pass I've ever seen of the planet.
Gerhard?
There was not a single thing that I consider to be the most difficult, which just tells you that I had no clue what was going on with the flycast maneuver. But it was due to the training of my co-brig, and especially at Caro, that we have received in California. I mean, I remember evenings until 10 o'clock on the blackboard with chalk and everything to understand what we are doing. And so we felt very well prepared. And there was, to the best of my recollection, no situation where we looked at each other and said, what is happening here? Even if something was not quite as it should be, it was sort of not expected, but we knew what it was and we could handle it. With respect to the most beautiful moments, there are so many that it's almost not justified to name one, but I saw Dom, and it's my very last day in orbit. I have to go to bed one more night, and the question I asked myself, will you ever do that again? As a German, it was not clear when there would be another chance to go. And Mamoru was supposed to relieve me, and he didn't show up. So I asked Dom, can I stay up a little bit longer just until Mamoru pops up? And he said, for tomorrow, everything done? And I said, yes. He said, okay, stay here. You remember it? So I put on my earphones and I listened to music. And what's it? And I told him what the music was, and he, hold on. Dom disappeared, came back with 2 loudspeakers. We connected the Discman to the 2 loudspeakers, and we started the music again. It was Beethoven's Ninth. So we are sitting there, side by side, listening to Beethoven's Ninth for one entire revolution around the Earth. It's 90 minutes. The music recording was 91 minutes. And the last sound disappears and Mamoru pops up. I mean, Mamoru did a lot of things right, but nothing as good as he did on this one.
And Kevin, this was your 4th mission. Was anything new for you on this mission?
Well,
it's beautiful.
It's all new. It's all beautiful. Every day is beautiful. You know, for me, the most satisfying is the mission. We only had one little glitch, which was the simplest part of the satellite. We lost nitrogen, and that's why we didn't get 100%. We missed out on 6 hours of orbit just because we were out of propellant. And we had some others, but because of the training of the people on the ground, the crew, we had pre-positioned things so that when something broke, we did it over water. And I actually have to laugh sometimes because the technology, it had never been done what we'd done. Having the boom out there had never been done. And the jet propulsion guys were always going, hey, we're going to map the Earth and do this. So we're going to get 80% of the Earth. I go, don't say that, don't say that. We're going to have problems. It's all this new technology. Well, it turns out we want an ascending and a descending pass. We got 99% of the ascending. We got 94% of the descending with new technology, which is incredible. And I still had a reporter ask me, so Kevin, are you disappointed with missing out on that 6 hours of data? And I said to her, I don't know about you, but 94 and 99 was an A. And if I got that in high school or college, I was pretty happy. And so in space, I was ecstatic. And then we had fun too.
How proud are you all have completed the mapping so successfully? As Kevin mentioned, this has not done before.
My view on it is the six of us, were just a small part of a huge team of 300 people, and they did altogether an excellent job. Otherwise, we would not have done it like this. I mean, as Janet correctly said, we watched for each other that we are not screwing up something that others had prepared very carefully.
Yeah, as you mentioned, with the team, you were the tip of the iceberg.
We were, so to speak, we are the ones who are visible. We show up on the montages and these kinds of things. But the mission was done by a much, much larger group, and the credit goes to all of them. And it is just to share a small story. When there was a problem reported, it made the German newspapers. And I learned that when we had the celebrations with the XR team in February close to Munich. And there's a guy from the Ulm University who was in charge for one little low noise amplifier thing in the XR system. He heard it in the radio going home on a Saturday evening. And he turned around into the lab to verify that it was not his thing that caused the problem, because it could have been. And it's this attitude of the people in the entire preparation and during the mission that made it easy for us to be as successful as we had been.
And this guy didn't think, okay, it's weekend, I'm free. He turned around and went back to the lab.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
we also, if I might add, we already know we have saved lives with the technology because of the reason Kevin mentioned. We have had an example where a fighter pilot had over-G'd and passed out, and the plane was heading towards the Earth, and it sensed the surface because in its database it knows where everything is. It sensed it, the pilot was not responding, so the plane flew itself away from the surface. They did not crash, he survived. When he woke up, he found out that, you know, all this data helped to contribute to the safety of him and all the commercial flights that we now have in the world. So it's been a very positive contribution, I think. In addition to just looking at your phone on Google Maps and seeing where you are and seeing the images on that.
How would you rank the experience of your space mission in your life from a professional point of view? Kevin and Dom, you have flown 4 times. Janet 3 times and Gerhard once.
Well, it had to be the pinnacle, especially as, you know, when you fly as a commander and you land it. You know, the ascent, the first minute and a half, you can't fly it. It's got to be the computer, but the whole time's computer. The entry, it's computer, but you could fly it by hand. But they've proven that the computer can mess it up, so the last 4.5 minutes is flown by the commander, and you got to do it. And so doing that, I think was probably, you know, the highlight. And I think the best was when we landed, and Gerhard, Dom calls touchdown, and Gerhard says, "I didn't know we've touched down," because landing the shuttle after you train as hard as you do, it's pretty easy, and it lands very nice.
We are the only museum outside the US which have a flown space shuttle. Here in our background, we have the Buran OKGLI, the counterpart of the US Space Shuttle Enterprise. When you see such an original space shuttle, does it bring memories to you for your totally 12 missions? We have been inside the flight deck and the mid-deck yesterday, and especially the pilots. I think you enjoyed it very much, sitting in the commander's and pilot seat.
Being inside a spaceship, it was like going into a museum where in the United States, if there was something that special, it would be behind glass. You couldn't touch it. But here we got to crawl inside, go in below the floors, sit in the seats, and that's a pretty remarkable experience that you don't get in nearly worldwide museums. This was a hands-on, wonderful visit. So it was very nice.
So you are all agreed spontaneously to bring the crew together for the 25th anniversary. What does it mean for you all to see each other again after such a long time?
I'm impressed about how none of us have aged at all. I think that's the best part.
But you know, when you're with really good friends or very close family, it doesn't matter if you're apart for a couple days or a couple years. When you get back together and we get to tell stories and laugh and tease each other like brothers and sisters, it's pretty remarkable. And I think that's because we were so close on orbit.
Yeah, and we were not only in orbit, but also during the preparation time. And when I realized that during a special moment last night, when Insa and Lerka, our daughters, walked up and said that it meant so much to them to see you again, because we, as a crew, played an important role in their life. So, and that doesn't happen if the crew doesn't. We were more like a family than a crew. That's
but
how I
also
perceived it.
with space flight, we try to tell the public and our friends and families what it's like and why it's important and explain it. But it's hard to really do that. But if you go with somebody who's actually flown with you, you get to relive. When I go and talk to a group of people, it helps me relive it and it gives me joy. But when I say these guys, you know, we understand. I'm trying to tell you what it's like. They know what it's like. And
so for the NASA astronauts, this is the first time that you see the Apollo and Beyond exhibition here at the Technik-Museum Speyer. What do you think of the exhibition?
It's very nice. I'm also on the board at the National Air and Space Museum in the United States.
Okay, yeah.
So it reminds me of the care and the dedication that any professional museum puts into their displays and ensuring that they're accurate and that you share with the public a little glimpse of what it's like to have been there.
Are my display panels accurate? Did you find anything yet?
I have not yet,
Okay.
but I will keep looking.
Okay, check it, yeah, check it, yeah. And for Gerhard, you have been here many times. Is it still impressive to you?
Well, it's developing. It almost, the museum seems to me like a living thing. It never is the same whenever I enter it, and there's always something to look at. And when we entered it yesterday, my wife told me it is gaining all the time. So you can see that.
We held a big anniversary event this afternoon. Our forum was completely sold out. How important is it for you all to use such public events to bring human spaceflight into the general public? I think you mentioned it before a little bit.
You know, space, one of the beauteous things I like about space is you have different countries working together. And it's not cliche, but especially like with the space station, it's for the betterment of humankind, for all of us on planet Earth. And the more we can get people excited, the more funding we can do, and the more people that know about space and get to go space, I'll go, okay, and even from space, you can look down at the Earth. We have to take care of the Earth. So I think it's part of my responsibility to, even though it's been 25 years, is to tell somebody, and who knows, if you can excite one person, that's what I want to do. They may be the first person that walks on Mars. That'd be pretty cool.
So would anyone else like to add anything or make a final comment?
If I may add, I'm just very grateful of the support that we got to make this reunion happy. And I'm sure we had a wonderful time already. And we will continue to have a wonderful time while we are here.
Okay, thank you very much for the great interview, Kevin.
Thank you, Gerhard.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah,
Gerhard.
thank you.
Oops, Janet. And absolutely good that you came here. So, and
You never did that on orbit.
So stand up and
No, I
follow.
did not.
So, thanks.
Good job. Good job.
Thanks, Dom. Okay.